Battlegrounds came out for the Morrowind chapter in Elder Scrolls Online back in 2017, and while initially it wasn't perfect and it always had its issues with the three-sided matchup, it was a 4v4v4, it was still better in my opinion than the current state of two-sided BGs, whether it's 4v4 or 8v8. And today I want to discuss exactly why I thought that. So this game has always been balanced around three teams. If you look at everywhere in the game that there's PvP, except for duels more or less, it is always a three-sided endeavor. If you're looking at Cyrodiil, it's all three factions. If you're looking at Imperial City, it's all three factions. And the entire map that Tamriel is based around is all three factions. And so if we're looking at the Battlegrounds, it made sense that it was going to be three teams as well, right? So you have those new three teams. It's the Storm Drakes, I don't remember the name of them. Regardless, it doesn't matter what the name of them were. Fire Drakes, Pit Daemons, and Storm Lords. Yeah, I believe that's what they were. So those are the three teams. And so it's a different concept than Cyrodiil itself, but it still had that same core PvP identity that the rest of the game had. And when they switched back in October of 2024, they switched this around to two-sided BGs, and they initially basically threw everything on its head, and they said, you know what, we had this old system, but we don't care about that anymore. And it really kind of messed up the entire system of Battlegrounds, in my opinion. And I feel like a lot of people that I've talked to feel the same way. So I would love to know, as we're getting into this video, do you guys feel the same way that I do? I would love to have these conversations in the comments. Do you think that Battlegrounds are better now? Do you think they're worse? Did you ever experience the old Battlegrounds? Stuff like that. So let me know in the comments. I'd love to talk about that with you guys. So Battlegrounds right now. I want to talk about that more or less. Battlegrounds right now. Two-sided BGs. It is 4v4 or 8v8. And they're really not great either way. I think 8v8 is the lesser of two evils in my opinion, because I think that it's more fun to have the power sigils and all of the sigils in general. I was initially against having the sigils when I first heard about two-sided BGs, but I was since proven wrong. I think that the sigils are a great idea, especially in 8v8s where there could be some really potent healing stacking on certain teams. So I think that the sigils are actually a really good idea, and I think that's a good idea to go forward. But that being said, I think that's about where the good ideas end when it comes to the new BGs, unfortunately. I believe that they are incredibly one-sided 90% of the time, or if they're not one-sided, it's just two teams that are healing each other, healing themselves with like 5 healers, just not knowing what to do with each other. And so it's kind of unfortunate because it feels like Battlegrounds are just a stomping ground at the moment, and it doesn't feel like it's a learning experience for anybody anymore. It doesn't feel like it's something that people are just using as a tool to learn more knowledge of PvP and a tool to just kind of get better at the game, more or less. Right now, it feels like you just go into a battleground and either you get stomped or you're getting stomped. There's no form of any kind of contest anymore. It doesn't feel like it's an actual struggle to win. Right now, it's just so one-sided. It's unbelievable. And I believe that's due to the two-sided matchup. What this game has always thrived in is that three-sided matchup. That way, if one team is dominating too much, the other two teams kind of come together, and it's kind of a checks and balances system. So if one team has a few more better players, well, then that's fine. Like, look, it's bound to happen. There are really good players in the game, and they're going to be bound to be on the same team every once in a while. But the way to stack that up is put numbers against them. And so if they're on the same team together, and if they're only against a singular team, they can divide and conquer that team and just wipe it out to make sure that they just don't they don't have any kind of reprieve. But that being said, if you have a third team there, like the initial system of Battlegrounds, it was definitely a more of a checks and balances system, because then the two teams that are losing can kind of come together. It's kind of an unspoken thing, but the two teams come together and they go for that team that's kind of dominating. So why is it that we have two-sided BGs now? I feel like there was no explanation given on why they're switching up the system. There was kind of like an old, like, half-baked answer of like, oh, we're just doing something new. But why? Why are you doing something new? The old Battleground system, it could still work. It 100% could still work. I feel like if you tweak it slightly and if you just do a little bit more updating, yes, 100% it could still work. I'm telling you guys, the old system, it had its problems. A lot of third teaming, a lot of just waiting for the enemies to just initiate, and just like a lot of just like holding back. But I still think it's better than what we got right now, because right now is not even fun in my opinion anymore, and it just feels like it just feels like a waste of time most of the time when we're in a battleground, unfortunately. And I hate to say that, because battlegrounds can be fun sometimes, but it's just most matches are just, they're just stomps, and it doesn't feel like it's actually anything that's fun. So how can we fix this more or less, in my opinion? I feel like we need to at some point just kind of wash our hands of this and be like, hey, maybe the two-sided battlegrounds aren't worth it, right? So how about we change that up slightly, right? I think that's a good, I think that's a good way to go. So change up the battlegrounds. I would love to see this go back to a third team, but unfortunately, I don't know if we're going to get that or not. So everything that I'm proposing is to bring the third team back, because I think that that's the way to go. I think that that is the best way to go forward with PvP in this game, because that is what makes this game incredibly unique as well. Going back to a two-sided matchup, it feels like every other video game in the history of video games. Every single PvP game that I grew up on, that most likely you grew up on, it's two-sided battle. It's two-sided PvP matches. It's your team versus the enemy team. And that's what this game turned into, a generic video game PvP situation. When in fact, in reality, this game used to be the most unique and amazing experience known to man for PvP. But over time, it's gotten stripped away from us, right? Through different nerfs, through different changes, all this stuff. And this Battlegrounds experience shows that without a doubt. So if we change back to the third team model, which I think would be better, add a fifth player onto each team, because it used to be 4v4v4. It's not something that's unheard of, because right now it's 8v8. And so if you add a fifth player to each team, then it's going to be 5v5v5, and that's still 15 players, which is still less than 16 players, which is less than the initial amount of players that you need usually for a battleground to start. So you go back to that 5v5v5 model. I think that would be a really good way to go. Add sigils into the mix for that every once in a while. You don't need to add too many, because I think sigils would help, especially in a, in a situation like that. And you introduce that back into the game. I think that that would be a lot more fun than what we have right now. What we have right now, like I said, I've said this 1,000 times, and I will say this again, because this is how I truly feel. The current system of Battlegrounds feels boring, it feels uninspired, and it feels like somebody played Call of Duty and they're like, hey, what if we brought Call of Duty, or what if we brought Halo, not really even Halo, what if we brought like any of these mainstream games, any of these mainstream PvP games, and we brought them to the Elder Scrolls Online? That's never been what's made ESO popular and what's made ESO special. What's made ESO special is that unique PvP. And that's what Battlegrounds was all about when it first started. It was awesome. And there's been tests through Battlegrounds throughout the years to see if, there's any way to improve it. And we've seen Battlegrounds with CP every once in a while, which I'm glad that we don't do that. I think CP in Battlegrounds is a mistake, so I think that's a good job. And we've also seen a bunch of stuff. But I think that this is the worst thing that we've seen yet. And I initially wanted to make this video when Battlegrounds first came out, but I wanted to take some time and kind of digest and think about it and just kind of give it a lot more perspective. And it came out in October of 2024, so it's been a while. And I just feel like at this point, we're just not getting anything special from it. It's one of those things that got released and then got forgotten about, like time and time again for a lot of things in this game. And I feel like that's kind of sad, because ESO has 4 different forms of PvP in the game. Either Cyrodiil, Imperial City, Battlegrounds, or Duels. And to have such minimal forms of PvP, like that's fine. Like, I'm not saying that we need anything and everything, but if that's the only form of PvP that we have, then I feel like we should have some nice quality of life updates every once in a while. It's been almost a year at this point, and it's already been forgotten about, more or less. We had one PvP event with the devs, and that was kind of a disaster, more or less. Let's be completely honest with ourselves. That was kind of a disaster, and it felt like after that, the team just wiped their hands of it and they said, "You know what? Leave these PvPers to themselves. Good luck, have fun. I'm not going to be doing this anymore." And it's unfortunate because Battlegrounds, when they're working and when they're firing properly, I think they could be a lot of fun. But at this point in the game, it's just Battlegrounds are so lopsided. Every single match that they get into, it's just lopsided. It's just, okay, well, your team won this one. Congrats, you won 500-0. All right, next time go. I think the incentives need to change slightly. I think that I see a lot of new faces in there every once in a while, and the bad part about that is that you have people who are trying out Battlegrounds for the first time into I don't mean to sound egotistical with this, so please, it's not how I mean to sound, but you have people that queue into a Battleground for the first time with 18k HP, with 20k HP. I played a Battleground yesterday with 5 people. I'm not kidding. 5 people on the enemy team with health between 18 to 21k. And I'm not trying to sound egotistical, but if you're throwing them into a match with someone like me or any player that has any kind of extensive PvP knowledge that has been playing for a long time, they're going to have a horrible time. They're going to have a horrible time. And this was on a character that I play on a near daily basis. So it's not like it was like a new character where it's like, okay, well, I know there's a weird MMR system where it's like it puts you in with other people who haven't queued as much. So I get that. I understand that. But there were like 5 people who were like first time PvPers more or less against me in a lobby, and they were just getting one shot. And it's like, that's not fun for me. That's not fun for them. I don't see the point in that. So I feel like we need to adjust our system slightly, because right now it is straight up not working. The Battleground system is broken and forgotten about, and it is one of the most lopsided things I've ever seen in my life. And I really hope that it changes, because it's honestly, at this point, I hate to say it, it's boring. Battlegrounds are boring, unfortunately. And I felt like that was never going to be a word that I said when Battlegrounds initially came out back in 2017. So I want to put out more videos like this about talking about Battlegrounds and how we can fix it. But I kind of wanted to put out an initial feeler to see if you guys were on the same page or not. So again, if you guys agree with me, that's awesome. If you disagree with me, that's fine too. Like, I'm not saying that, you know, we always have to agree, but let me know in the comments below. We could always have a nice little discussion. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys on the next video. Later.